appeared to be present. Simply looking at the curtain gave me a sense of its velvety texture, blackness, and softness. It gave me enormous solace. What was ahead of me caught my attention, but I could hear the faint echo of my former spot. I swung my arm towards the drapes. By drawing aside the curtain, I was able to emerge from the shadows onto the most green grass and purest sky possible. I was amazed. There was about 6 feet of grass between me and the bank of a small creek. The lovely grass along the creek's side appeared to go on forever. The water produced small bumps as it went, which I watched with great curiosity. It was like sitting on a bench in a small corner of this busy and noisy place. I felt entirely alone. After, the room suddenly fell silent. What appeared to be a nice waiting area was actually a warm, velvety blackness where I stood. Big black velvety stage curtain, similar to those used in New York City theaters, appeared to be present. Simply looking at the curtain gave me a sense of its velvety texture, blackness, and softness. It gave me enormous solace. What was ahead of me caught my attention, but I could hear the faint echo of my former spot. I swung my arm towards the drapes. By drawing aside the curtain, I was able to emerge from the shadows onto the most green grass and purest sky possible. I was amazed. There was about 6 feet of grass between me and the bank of a small creek. The lovely grass along the creek's side appeared to go on forever. The water produced small bumps as it went, which I watched with great curiosity. It was like walking into a perfectly maintained yard. The water was picture perfect, and the grass met it exactly right. I knew the stream wasn't very deep because its width appeared to be around 20 feet, and it sloped somewhat in the center. I couldn't resist peeking over the stream's bank. Several hazy figures came across the stream, and I could sense them more clearly than previous, and the area they occupied radiated incredible vitality. I was truly absorbing everything. Prior to being here, I was aware of my roots, but I also understood that they had nothing to do with my current predicament. Even though I was bewildered, I eventually determined it wasn't important. That moment was all that mattered, and I felt a strong draw to the area across the stream. I took a courageous step forward and went to the nearest bank. My thinking was as follows. If I step in and go about 20 feet, I would be able to reach the opposite side of the stream bank, where the people and energy are. As incredible as that was, I had no idea who was over there, but I knew it had to be humans. Do you believe anything else? People are my reality. The water barely touched my left foot as I plunged it into the stream. The water was so refreshing and cool that it spun around my foot as it flowed by itself. Then dipped my right foot into the water and stood only inches from the stream's edge. I was now completely submerged in the stream, with the water around both of my feet. Relocating a few feet away from where I had moved aside, the velvet curtain allowed me to view the opposite bank of the stream more clearly, and I wished to join them. At that point, I heard sound for the first time. Before that point, I hadn't paid much attention to any noises, but that was about to change. Suddenly, a noise that appeared to come from anywhere stopped my yearning to be on the other side. That was it. Furthermore, it was a fantastic sound rather than an audible one. It spoke with me in ways that words could not express, and the instant I became aware of it, I had an instinctive sensation that it was real. Something about it sounded manly if spoken, but it wasn't. It was speaking directly to my thoughts. It caught me by surprise. This was a whole new type of meeting. I hadn't heard anything major since arriving at this area. But that didn't matter. But the calm was so peaceful and genuine. The voice managed to be both forceful and comforting. I sensed a tremendous mystery when I was questioned, "Where are you?" At the age of 19, I clapped back and said, "I'm at the Saint in New York." As soon as I uttered the word York, I became aware of the thumping bass and neighboring conversations. The deafening roar of 100 different noises vying for my attention stunned me. My reasoning was in chaos. Why am I hearing all of this? And what was that? Not right. I remember thinking that, just as my mind was racing with an idea. I found myself back at the stream, where the formerly deafening roar of bass and mayhem had subsided into a calm serenity. I feigned not to move while I remained stationary in the water. As I examined my location in the stream, I felt compelled to move forward. At this point, the sounds I just heard are no longer significant to me. It was critical that I reach the other bank. I stepped into the stream, taking into mind its depth. When I started to gradually pace, the water was just above my ankles. Suddenly, I came to a halt. Those beyond the stream began to stand out more to me. They appeared to have paused in their actions due to my presence. When they observed me standing in the middle of the stream, they clearly turned to look at me. I wanted to be with them right now since they can see me and know I'm present. Crossing that threshold was significant to me. I felt a great internal tug towards the opposite bank. It was palpable for me emotionally. It appeared to radiate warmth and light. Just as I was going to increase my pace, a sweet but authoritative voice said, "Where are you?" I blurted out, "I'm at the Saint in New York." I became aware of the dreadful noise again, but I also realized I was lying on the floor. My response was slightly angry because the inquiry was the same as previously. I felt as if someone close to me was present. Occasionally, I could hear a few words. Their roar was audible to me. All of the phrases flew by me, and my reasonable mind couldn't understand any of them. "I don't think he is breathing, and should we call an ambulance?" One thing was certain, I had to be with the people on the other side of the creek. By the time that thought crossed my mind, I had returned to my position in the stream, making the static noise I had just heard unimportant. Standing in the middle of the stream, I began to pace toward the other side of the bank, which was only a short distance away. As I traveled the last few yards, I could hear voices crying out to me from the other bank, John is coming to join us." Someone even offered to pull me over to their side of the river. I felt their humanity. At some level, I knew people were anxious for me to join them, but I couldn't make out any faces. Two of them occurred to me simultaneously. My Aunt Pat and her friend Lynn from college in Georgia were two of them. The ambience was quite intense. There was an irrepressible want in me to be there, and I wished to share that experience with them. I noticed an extended arm on the creek's bank and began to grasp for it. The voice called out to me unexpectedly. It was stern, but not hostile, as if your father was providing a final warning before imposing the law. "Where are you?" Answered, slightly irritated. "I told you before, I'm at the Saint in New York." In an instant, I walked out of the stream and stood surrounded by the dense black velvet curtain. I was engulfed in a sea of affection and never felt threatened. As I stood there, I sensed a towering figure behind me. Despite my lack of terror, I knew I couldn't turn around in this massive presence. I mentioned there was a strong presence, but what was much more overwhelming was the tremendous light that shone from behind me, which I assumed had originated from the person behind me. Even now, I have no idea who was following me, but it didn't matter in that moment of pure love and trust. The being sent me a message that made me cease caring. "John, you are unable to turn around and look at me because the power of the light is too much for you." I believed them wholeheartedly. The entity appeared to resist gender classification. It connected with me telepathically, saying, "I have some things you need to see and understand." The creature raised its disguised left arm, from the elbow down, over my left shoulder. Though it didn't appear to matter much at the time, I was aware of it. A large sleeve came in second to the wrist. Slim fingers seemed to embellish the hand, and the arm was as slim. Full movie set appeared out of thin air as a vision flashed before my eyes. The set consisted of a complete scenario, with characters, objects, and a suspended floor. Instead of explaining what I was seeing, The thing just lifted its index finger and said, "You need to be aware of this." I was free to watch the drama unfold as it made its point. The main character in the scene before me was none other than myself. I was in the company of people I know and trust. It was amazing since I was back in my comfortable high school surroundings, with people I recognized. We were kidding about, laughing, and these were my friends. Any day would have been ideal for this scene. It was surprising, however, as I turned away to depart. Suddenly, my friends began to gossip about me. Rumors spread, and I heard he should die. Instantly pivoted, and the cheerful laughter and smiles returned. As I turned away, the hostility, jealousy, and mistrust resurfaced. Worst thing ever. I would have been shattered if there hadn't been so much love flowing from behind me. I don't know how I would have handled the issue. That's when it dawned on me. These were the lessons I needed to pay attention to, and I had to keep a close eye on human nature. As humans, we must be self-aware. Humility is the most effective weapon we have against the pernicious ways individuals think and speak, which they employ to harm one another. I was simultaneously the protagonist and the observer. After accomplishing its goal, this scene vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Even though I was aware that I had left that spot that night, the second vision that appeared to me through a different scenario made use of it. If you want to have a crazy night out, look no farther than the Saint, a mega club on Manhattan's 2nd Avenue. It has an extraordinary array of stage lights and music to satisfy the economic desire of some investors. It appeared out of thin air, just like the first vision, and the scenario was set perfectly. In this story, I portrayed an objective spectator, which was a departure from my regular theater roles. The opportunity to watch and learn conveys a unique message, to bring light into the darkness through transformation. Once more, my guide pointed to the stage with its finger. We appeared out of nowhere on the massive dance floor, its tens of thousands of lights flashing to create an alluring sight, while the speakers blared out music with extreme bass and treble, coaxing the crowd to dance to a global beat. The athletes appeared to be dancing in their own tiny universes. It was a lot of fun to watch the athletes dance and enjoy themselves. Screams and screeching became so loud that they drowned out the electronic music and drums as soon as my guide's light beamed down on the performers. While attempting to avoid the strong glare, the players' expressions revealed their level of terror. The third vision I saw was a magnificent vision of completion. At least on a personal level, I couldn't make this work until recently, the beginning of 2020. My guide's finger stroked over my shoulder again as we approached what appeared to be the third vision of knowledge. To conclude my contemplative journey, I experienced a beautiful and joyous vision. As with the previous one, I didn't completely appreciate its connection to my experience until 2020. On a grand scale, the scenario developed similarly to the preceding two. The backdrop was a stage composed of the purest gold and bordered by steps on either side. As the message receiver, I was once again the main character in this scenario, before crossing the stage, queued up with everyone else. However, for 30 years, I failed to recognize the achievement for which I would be praised. Everything seemed as if everything had happened yesterday in my imagination. In this clock-driven universe, I haven't spent much time figuring out why this thrilling but baffling scene occurred or how it fit into the vision sequence. Being humbled by the weight of such acknowledgement in a domain that I was fortunate enough to enter needs reflection on the whys, the true meaning, and other human issues. How could I have deserved it? Because of my strongly religious background, I was led to feel that the entire experience, as well as any subsequent ideas about my role in it, were heretical and insane, which caused me great distress for a long time. A moving moment occurred during this graduation ceremony, when I turned my head halfway across the stage to the left. Here was an opportunity to pause and listen to a stunningly beautiful music sung in harmony, the likes of which our material world cannot grasp. It made me stop and feel really humble. All that had happened up to this point in my path had culminated in the simple words given by one of the greatest masters of all time, Jesus Christ, "It is finished." I needed these words to carry me through the tasks I had agreed to complete in order to elevate my spirit. Whatever happens between now and graduation day lends validity to his declaration, "It is finished." This vision came as a huge relief, acting as a bookend. After waking up, I got up and felt energized. We were out of there in under an hour, and I don't recall anyone assisting me. I was absolutely fine, even without medical care. My outlook on the world changed dramatically the moment I left the premises. When I glanced at other people, I could feel their pain. I was afraid and struggled with it for nearly a year before a dream on the same date the next year helped me conquer my worries. A faraway bright light arrived in my dream as I was lying in bed at college. I felt impelled to wake up as I watched it approach, and I did so just in time for the beam of light to enlighten my entire being. I had a nagging feeling that my body would radiate. I laid there for a bit, feeling it, before walking over to the mirror, confident that my pulsing body would shine. Even if it wasn't, I stared at myself in the mirror for a long time. As evidence of my experience, I believed that love was assisting me. This finishes today's video. Leave a comment telling me what you thought